Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a brand new episode of Definitive Discussion Rebooted, my podcast show where I bring on phenomenal guests from all over the place in gaming, outside of gaming, and we talk about a bunch of cool stuff. So if you guys haven't been checking out the previous episodes, I had Dino on not too long ago. Definitely check it out when you get a chance. I even got some exclusive stuff over on my Patreon page that you guys definitely need to check out. There's a whole lot of content, a whole lot of good discussion, and a whole lot of food for thought that I know you guys are going to dig. But today, I got a cool special guest. I've actually been on his show in the past. I think I was your first guest back then, beforehand.
That's right, yeah.
So I got Joe Munday, moderator of Reddit Street Fighter. He does, RSF Radio. He does a whole bunch of great content online regarding fighting games, covering the fighting game community. And I brought him on to talk about covering fighting games and covering the fighting game community and stuff. So Joe.
I am here to talk about fighting games.
Fighting games. He's here.
I am here to talk about them. You're right, though. It's one of those things. I actually just had a conversation with my wife of, you're kind of doing a lot of stuff right now and you're sick. Maybe just take a week.
She's going to need you to chill. She's going to need you to chill. Okay, just relax. Don't do any more footsies. Don't do any of those, 3 out of 5 sets. Put it down. Put the arcade stick down. You can relax.
Yeah, just for your health, just chill, my guy. And it's a good time to do that. We're kind of in between things with the Capcom Pro Tours, so there's not a whole lot of stuff to do until December. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just sitting and thinking about the next year. I'm in planning phase right now.
Well, I'm glad then. I'm glad I got you on here now to talk game stuff, to talk about fighting game stuff and such like that, because we both love fighting games. Again, I know you're a big fan, obviously, of Street Fighter and other fighting games as well. I've covered them in the past and stuff, but the reason why I really wanted to discuss this with you is because I feel like a lot of the people out there that care about fighting games, care about the FGC, care about the players out there that are going out and winning tournaments and stuff, don't really kind of get this part of the puzzle, because we're always hearing the hot takes, we're always hearing the stories about the players, we're always hearing all the drama and the craziness, but we never really kind of get the emotion and the mindset from the process of actually going out and looking for all this stuff and actually talking and discussing about all this stuff. And I feel like, you're the perfect candidate to actually bounce off this with, because again, you've covered fighting games for a while. I mean, probably a lot longer than me, specifically fighting games, with a lot of your content that you posted up online. I mean, do you ever really kind of, find yourself getting a little bit tired of it? Because I know you do, like you said, you do a lot. You cover a lot of stuff. You get into a lot of different news and a lot of different things with your content.
That's a good question of, is there too much? And that's kind of a conversation that a lot of people were having a couple weeks ago, leading up to Canada Cup or even LATAM regional finals, where every weekend, at least it felt like every weekend or every other weekend, there was a premiere or a ranking event, and it's so hard to follow the storylines between the top players. It's so hard to...
Sounds like a lot.
It is. It's really hard to wrap your head around, even as someone who's deep in it as myself, from every week thinking, wait a minute, so what's this week? Where can I watch it? What has Ace King Offsuit posted in terms of...
It's like an overload, almost.
It really is. So, even on my end, and maybe I'm biased because of this, because our Street Fighter is kind of the filter of which I view things, and everything comes through there. So I'm
pretty much, yeah.
I see it all, the good and the bad, all the memes. I've got all the artisanal memes up here, and also the mass-produced factory memes. I got them all.
That's a lot of memes, B. I'm just saying, that's probably too much memes. There could probably be too many.
That's a whole other conversation about how the FGC loves to take things. The FGC loves its
memes. A lot of memes.
They do, because it is one of those things where the FGC is so, as a unit, as a thing that has existed, has been around for so long in online spaces, you could trace it back to IRCs. I was actually having a conversation today about... There's a thing on our Street Fighter on the front page. And this was set up by the old head moderator, Soul Synapse. He's into ant farming now, but that's a whole other story.
What?
Yeah, trust me, I know. That there was a turn there, and things.
How do you go from Hadokens to ant farming? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Listen, man, he was an Ibuki player. I have no idea.
Even worse. Like, I'm just like, how do you do? I don't know.
That's the real mix-up.
Right?
But something he had set up with someone who I didn't know at the time until like earlier today, and it was this like help find your locals, and there's a like submit your local here. Here's like a submittal form. And it had all the R Street Fighter stuff on it, but no one within R Street Fighter had access to any of that stuff. So I was asking the other mods, I was asking old mods, like, hey, did you make this? And they're like, no, that was set up through the old IRC from someone from Winchester. You need to go to the Winchester Discord now. So like tracking things through the internet over time has become really strange. So like I had to like think about old IRC conversations that happened. You have to be a
private investigator, basically.
Yeah, fucking like 5 years ago. And that's like new. That's like 5 years ago is practically brand fucking new. But even then with it's like there was so many conversations being had on IRCs that just for years and years. And you can even trace back to like the SRK forums, which have kind of gone the wayside now. They've been kept alive.
I don't hear a lot of people talk about them a lot now these days.
Well, because there was that thing where one of the Cannon brothers was like, well, we don't have the money to keep them up anymore. And the community was like, no. You will keep those servers running without actually being like, well, we're still never going to use them to.
They're just going to be there.
They'll be there. Like, here's like this money to keep them. I forget how the finances worked out on the back end, but it was like something else that he was running to fund that in its entirety. So it's like, okay, that's like a whole separate thing now, and like we're gonna keep the doors open for the forums that no one uses anymore. But yeah, the FGC on the internet, its presence on the internet is old. There's a lot of old internet people here. So when you talk about memes, they're right with you. I mean, if you look at most of the faces that are Twitch emotes, most recognizable ones
somewhere in the FGC. Like yeah, I'm pretty sure the Salt one was a good one. That was probably somewhere around there.
Absolutely.
Started in the FGC, like straight up. But the reason why I think that's important, though, is because, again, you get to see it through, or at least a lot of those different types of things through a different type of lens that normally isn't just the common player, the competitive player, or the consumer that's the bystander out there. You have to actually see it all. You have to kind of look at all this stuff. And at times with your content, you have to report it to people and you have to talk about it with people. You have to keep the conversation going. Does that ever become a little bit too much, or does it more become a little bit more thrilling as you go along with it in time?
That part... That is an interesting question because year after year, specifically in downtimes like this, when there isn't that major thing and you have to pull something from the FGC to talk about in the next week, is that from what I've seen, and this is, I don't know, this might be a shitty opinion that maybe only I have, but from what I see, is that there are actually very few people within the FGC who are committed to moving the community as a whole forward.
What do you mean exactly?
So things like a big conversation that happened earlier this week was and this is part of the drama, where someone within the FGC made a very bad take without really explaining himself, that if you run a venue, if you run a local, if you can run it for free, you should do it that way. Like, don't scare people away with the cost of attending a local. What wasn't apparent in him saying that was that, like, he has the crazy privilege of being a part of a university that has a room for them, that has monitors for them.
The stuff people don't think about at first when they do a hot take like that.
Yeah, it has all that stuff provided that would otherwise cost money, or like cost money to move, or like there's like a time cost there. And really, like, that's the perspective that this dude was coming from. No, like, and if you, here's the fucking part that really grinds my gears.
It's complicated.
Is that, like, this is a dude, like, extreme, like, it is like a great privilege that he can do that and do that for his community. Like, that's fucking awesome. Good on that dude. But the dude had, like, I don't know, 400 or so followers, and for whatever reason, the major figureheads in the community were like, let me quote tweet this guy and just dunk on him. And it's like, what are you fucking trying to solve
That almost
here?
doesn't really accomplish anything. I see a lot of that also, not just in the FGC. I mean, you see that in a lot of other gaming communities, and even sometimes in the media, where I feel like I get that there's thoughts and, like, you know, ideas and perspective that, you know, to combat or to kind of meet up with stuff like that. But sometimes I think people come from a place of viciousness that they're trying to actually hurt more than help.
It doesn't help anything. It doesn't accomplish anything. Like, it just weaponizes the people who are following you, and it's just a really irresponsible use of any kind of following, in my opinion. And a lot of people did that. However, I will say one person who is, I think, if you're trying to look at a very mature perspective on what it's like to move within the FGC or be a part of the actual community, Rick the Haddo is the person you want to look towards. Dude who, like, runs Combo Breaker and a whole other slew of, like, he has his hands in everything. He's all over the place. Super good dude. Incredible perspectives, like, on where the community is moving, and he usually keeps things moving forward. He's got one of those. He's very forward thinking, and has some foresight into that is further than how's the best way to dunk on someone. So what he did was, instead of doing a hot take, he was just like, you know what? Not even going to comment on that. Hey, anyone share your locals? Like, just list these things in this tweet thread, and I'll, like, retweet the ones that I'll retweet the replies or whatever.
That's actually pretty cool.
It's incredible. It's an incredible thing.
It's a small thing that could go far.
Yes, it's something that someone somewhere can find useful and get in. Like, if it helps one person get in touch with a local, that's a success. And I'm sure that has helped a number of people. And then I know that his wife took that list and made it into a spreadsheet somewhere. I personally took all of the ones that were listed, went through it, took away all the repeats, and added it to the FGC registry that we have in our Street Fighter wiki.
Let me guess. A lot of people that were playing fighting games were using Microsoft Excel at some point. Bottom line. That's the one few times that everybody's going to use Excel. Google Docs has been a godsend, honestly, for the FGC. Just keeping track of all these fucking Facebook pages. Because that's the other thing, is that, like, locals have been running for so long, all of them have Facebook event pages. You were talking to me about this, and we were kind of poking fun at it on Twitter, because you were like, yo, it's so difficult to search for people or search for locals on Facebook, because that's all they got is a Facebook, and there's no other way to find them on, like, you know, a random, like, Twitter account or Instagram or event page or Google Doc. Like, they just have Facebook, and there's, like, you know, hundreds if not thousands of, like, probably the same name.
It was blowing my fucking mind. One in particular, like, really got me. This was the one that set me off, because I had done it for a couple of multiple people saying search X on Facebook for the link to the events page, and I was like, okay, this, after the second or third time where that didn't necessarily work out perfect, the one that got me was the Tuscaloosa FGC, which you would think, what's going on in Tuscaloosa? Maybe if I just type in those two words, I'm probably going to get the result. If the thing that they run is called the Tuscaloosa FGC, and, like, fucking nope, just I couldn't find it. Just didn't.
That's hilarious.
Couldn't find it.
That is hilarious. Like, when you really think, I can imagine you just get mad frustrated trying to find all these things. It's like, how the hell are there going to be multiple Tuscaloosa FGCs out here? Like, that's funny.
Man, who would have thunk it? It just, man, that one in particular got me. I was like, just share the fucking link, you guys. How hard, if you are trying to support your local, how hard is it to copy and paste a link?
All I'm just saying is, FGC, you got to do better. We got to get some etiquette around here.
That is absolutely fucking true, because that's something that here's the thing that gets me also, because here's the shitty part of what happened. The end result is that all of those results, well, not all of those results, because it's archived somewhere. I have it archived. Yeah. But if that didn't happen, and this happens with a lot of FGC information, is that it is a random thread on Twitter that disappears, or it happens in a Discord and you have to find the right Discord and know who to ask to even get into it. Yeah. Like, that's a whole other issue. But it is a archival nightmare to find any of the particular information people are looking for. I had a similar problem last Wednesday. We've been running these character discussions, and a lot of the things that are linked in the general base character discussion page is just like all the tech that we could find on this character from the whole history of a character ever existing. So it was for Abigail. And like, here's a bunch of links, here's a bunch of resources you can use to learn about how to play Abigail. But the game has changed. Awful. The game has been patched. So Abigail, a different game almost. Yeah, at Abigail's release, he doesn't play necessarily the same as he does today. And he's not going to play the same in a couple months. And someone replied to that thread with, hey, this is awesome, but is there like a change log I can look at that has this all like itemized?
An updated version, yeah.
The killer is, I know in my head where to find all those threads, but only because I'm like so fucking rooted that I'm like, well, you need to find, like, go to Weed's Twitter and then find this one person's response to them, because he's itemized the list. So that's actually how you want to find it. You want to look at SF5diff, but you can't explain that. Insane. You can't explain that to a normal human. You can't. That's not what normal people do. This is not normal. People shouldn't do this.
Not everybody's a conspiracy theorist when they're trying to find FGC information.
Yeah, you have to put on the fuck. Here's the crazy part is that for most people who play and enjoy fighting games, a frame difference in a certain move they don't give a fuck about, and nor should they. They have no reason to, like, right out of the gate, just trying to enjoy a fighting game, even if they're trying to be competitive in that game. Like, small differences like that right up front are like, you don't overload someone with something so specific, whereas like you can get that deep in it, and that's like what people are fucking looking for. It's just very frustrating.
It's very stressful. It sounds really ridiculously stressful, annoying. Like you need to have like a lot of coffee every day reporting on the FGC and stuff.
Oh yeah, I thought today of at work specifically, because Tuesdays in particular, after we run our tournaments on Mondays, and they typically run really late because there's just a lot of people who show up to them, and I have to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning.
Oh wow!
So get to work at like a little after 6, and I thought to myself today, what if I just took this pot of coffee that someone made back to my desk?
You took the whole pot? Like, I understand it's a tough day, but come on, dude.
Like what if I just took the whole thing? There was another pot right there.
Ladies and gentlemen.
There were at least 2 pots there. There was an extra pot if someone needed to make coffee. I was like,
now Joe, honest to God, Joe, now I want to know how much creamer you put in.
0. It's black, man. Take it straight.
Black. You took it straight.
Yeah, black rails to the vein, man. Just like running them.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry. That's too funny.
It can't get enough. Tuesdays are rough. Tuesdays are rough.
Now, one thing I want to go back to that we kind of glanced over a little bit, because we talked about it a little bit, because we went on a huge tangent. We got into memes, got into black coffee, Tuesdays, all this craziness. But I do want to go back a little bit to one of the things that you mentioned in that original thread that you said that, what was it? Somebody was like quote tweeting another person that took like a really terrible hot take. And it was like all these like, you know, known people within the FGC that do stuff like that. Does it ever really kind of get to you sometimes when you see like a lot of big personalities or popular people, whether it's professional players or other media people that do things like that and kind of like cause more harm than good, or like cause something that ends up becoming like a worse situation online, even though a lot of these like back and forths aren't really that big in the grand scheme of things, but sometimes like just putting out more negativity out there for like the greater FGC that's around. Because for me, the way I relate to that and the way I see it is usually when I see like other games media people that are doing something similar, when they're like arguing with like fans on Twitter or arguing with readers and viewers on Twitter or other social media. It's kind of like a similar thing where it's like, yo, you don't need to do that. Like you could have your take, you could have your opinion and stuff, but I don't think, you know, you need to be so vicious to like some of these other people that are part of your same grouping.
I fucking hate it. It is one of my biggest pet peeves with people who have influence within the FGC, because there's not a ton of them who still do it, but for the people who do, they still have a very large following, and it sets a tone for people who are interested in following the figureheads of the community that is just trash. It leads to because it leads to like disinformation in a weird way.
Does it make your job harder, like overall, like, you know, trying to reach out to people or trying to get like confirmation on stuff?
It does. It does make my job harder, because ultimately what I want to do, bring people together over something that they love. And when you have so many people out there stirring the pot for like what, more followers, more interactions on Twitter, or having more people follow your Instagram,
like a cheap pop.
It feels that way. It's like a cheap sellout. Like when we want to talk about like sellouts in the FGC, that's where I feel like the sellout is. It's to people who are appealing to people's base level of entertainment and saying, here's this, just slinging shit left and right. Whereas, like I said earlier, there's probably only like 100 or so people, maybe 2, like within the entirety of the FGC who are actually trying to move things forward. Whereas,
you know, something, it's funny you bring that up, because I feel like at least, you know, in my times that I've crossed paths with the FGC, or, you know, different aspects of it, I've had the privilege of, luckily, to interview players like Justin Wong or Hungry Box and stuff, and it feels like those types of players are guys that are like that either they achieve success or have been out here doing things, feel like they have a mindset. It's like they want to do stuff that not only brings up other people, not just, you know, through the competitiveness of the games and stuff, but even just in the small things, like actually going to places, making appearances, talking to players. Like one of my personal experience, you know, outside of like media stuff, the first time I met Justin Wong was at an Evo that I went to. I went to my first Evo was in 07, Evo East, and I met him there, and he was teaching me and my friend how to play Third Strike. Like, because I was so Street Fighter was more foreign to me as far as like a competitive game, where I wasn't like, you know, going out and competing in tournaments with like friends and stuff. It was just a game that I acknowledged was there, that I enjoyed at home. But like seeing it from like that type of perspective, or getting it kind of explained to me or broken down to me by someone who's been in those scenes and been in that atmosphere, I felt like it was very good. And I feel like there's players or people out there that are part of the scene that are doing stuff like that. But do you feel, in your professional opinion, again, as someone that's a media person covering this stuff, do you feel like that gets drowned out by all the nonsense, though? And I say nonsense as a general term. I don't mean like specific things. I mean like, you know, general things, and you know, here and there.
The true answer is yes. My heart says no, but the true answer is probably yes.
Why is that?
And that's really unfortunate, because you bring up Justin Wong in particular, who is, at least like right now, like, and historically,
one of the best.
One of the best. Yes, he is. It is actually great that you share that story of him teaching you Third Strike. That is just an incredible moment, I'm sure.
By the way, he did it completely out of his own thing. Did not know me. Did not have to do it. He just did.
No,
he just and that's what made it awesome. Straight up.
He just loves fighting games. He loves people who love fighting games. He is in it. But people take what he's done through, like you look at some of the things that he's tweeted about, like ESA esports, or I'm sorry, esport, not ESA, esports eco.
Yeah.
And I won't comment on how esports eco is doing or what that company is. I don't know dick about Bitcoin.
Me neither. I don't even understand. It's way too confusing.
I'm sure that they care about the FGC. I'm sure there's someone within that company that cares about the FGC. I'm sure, because what they've done is they're sending players to major events. There's something about that where I can relate to that, because that's something that our Street Fighter does. Is like sans just any of the fucking bullshit of. Like, no, we want to find a player like through this tournament. We just want to send them and give them the opportunity to compete among the best. They just prove themselves in a tournament, and then we send them somewhere. Or vote on the person who you want us to send, and then we'll send them. And it's that kind of like community growth stuff that Justin has been a part of and tries to push, but specifically because it's with esports ecosystem, you got a lot of other people doing the hot take, doing the shit slinging, being like, he's just selling out to esports eco. He's just on the take.
Isn't that kind of crappy, though? Because, like, I felt like for years, you know, as someone that's really on the outside looking in, even though I love fighting games, I don't really consider myself part of that scene because I'm not out there going to tournaments and stuff. But one of the things I always see come up constantly is this need for resources and this need to kind of put money into fighting games and the competition like that. But it seems like there's always, like, this dichotomy is, like, people want that, but they don't want money in esports. They don't want people changing and stuff. It feels like there's, like, a back and forth where people don't know what they want. I even talked about this with Justin Wong and also Hungrybox when he was on my show on the Coalition. I asked them the same thing, and they said, like, you know, sometimes, you know, either people just don't understand, like, you know, the economics that goes along with this, but also people are just afraid of change.
Yeah. It is very weird how people within the FGC have rejected just kind of like carte blanche anyone who wants to inject any kind of resources into the community itself. Because then they say, oh, this is so FGC, but it's like, or this is so esports, it's not FGC.
Like, what's the difference?
Well, like, what do you, like, fucking mean? It's like the same people. I don't really get it.
And I don't even think people understand what that term means now. Because at least from what I see, it's more like an insult that's just thrown out there. I don't even think that they understand what it is.
Yeah, words kind of have no meaning now. I mean, it's 2018.
Yeah, right.
Like, words don't mean fucking anything. You can change the definition of word by Tuesday. Trust me. No, it is one of those things where every time that I see someone outwardly be like, you're just a sellout, Justin Wong. It's all this money you got to reject all this money. It's like, fucking why, man? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And also because that tells me two things. It tells me, one, you don't care about the top level of where FGC is, but also you probably don't give a fuck about your personal level of within the FGC.
Yeah, like your own contribution or like your own like stuff.
Even like at their own local level, they probably don't give a fuck. Because if they have that same attitude of, no, we don't want any outside money coming into even our small scene, then they're not going to get any kind of like local sponsorship. Local sponsorships are a thing. There are communities out there who get like mom and pop shops who provide them like, here's like a sandwich shop, and this is brought to you by Mama Papa Subway or whatever. Not Subway, but like some like Uncle Sam subs. Come on in. Like maybe you get like
Uncle Sam subs.
Winner gets like $10.
Right by a guy named Uncle Sam too.
Right. But that does exist. So does that person then look at something like that and go, man, we have corporate America, Uncle Sam subs coming in and telling us how to act? And it's like, fucking no, dude. Like, that's just not how the fucking world works. Like,
so let me ask you this then. Like, with that being said, with all that stuff swirling around and stuff, and as someone that's got to look at this stuff and has got to create conversations about it or make content about it, what do you feel like you come in order to kind of like better inform or better help people better understand a lot of that stuff? Like what we're talking now and the type of content that we're making now on this podcast show, like how do you do it in your own way, or at least how do you kind of think about that type of stuff?
I cover a lot of that stuff on my own show, RSF Radio, the podcast, and also try to espouse as much as I can on Twitter from our Street Fighter Twitter account, which like
You're active on there a lot.
Yeah, because I feel like that it's got a good following, so why not use that for the better? Like, why not? Like, I'm constantly trying to like retweet out people who like have locals or anyone who's like. Let me just put it this way: if you run a local out there and you have a highlight from your local, and you tag Reddit SF on it, I will fucking retweet that shit. Like,
which helps a lot.
No questions asked. If I see you guys doing something totally cool, it's going up there. Like, good play is good play, and it's all over the fucking nation. It's not just on the East Coast and West Coast anymore. It's not Wednesday night fights and NLBC. It's not just that. There are so many strong players all over who are doing so well, but again, you have this like kind of butts heads with what we were talking about earlier of who cares about a local in Atlanta, Georgia, if there's a ranking event this weekend that all the pros are going to go to, or a premier event the following weekend, and we have to care about all these storylines. Who cares about a Wednesday event in Atlanta when also I can tell you Atlanta, Georgia's fucking strong. There's a lot of really strong players from that region who will. It's got to be the
food, because Atlanta, Georgia's got good food. I'm just saying. I've been.
Yeah, dude. They like that scene matters. Like Minnesota of all players, of all places, matters. Mm-hmm. Like it's these regions that like historically people don't think of within the FGC because they're not like mainstays or staples from what people. Would think of in terms of online influence or people who are like they don't have as much outreach as Wednesday night fights or NLBC, but it's because the communities that grew within the East Coast and the West Coast of NLBC Wednesday night fights, they supported that community more so than just attending, right? They constantly promoting that stuff. It's
talked about it a lot.
Yeah, it's more than going. It's talking about it online, sharing clips, doing all that stuff. It's more than just going. So I don't know.
At least you could do your part like that. At least, you making your content and posting up and being so active online with that type of stuff, it at least does something for those groups out there. And I think it's a good service. I think it's a good point, and it also shows, just beyond the score, beyond the glory and stuff. There's another aspect to the fighting game community and just greater gaming community in general of people that are like trying to do something, trying to make something awesome for others to recognize or to kind of be a part of.
Yeah, it supports that's a way to support your local. So going back to like the guy who says I reject all this money being input into esports, like a part of me, I get it. Like at some point when you have a lot of money, if the developers start to gain a little bit more control, you can look at something like, because here's the nasty end of it, is what happened to BC, body count fighting.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what happened, I guess, gosh, is it months now? I have no idea how.
It's been a minute.
I have no idea how time works. But the Bandai Namco was like, hey, we see that you're running Dragon Ball tournaments at your event here that you're broadcasting and, I don't know, probably making money from. How about you don't do that anymore?
Why did I don't understand, though, like why they do it. Because to me, again, as someone that's worked with Bandai Namco, they're always looking to get awareness out about their games, especially, I would assume, with Dragon Ball Fighters, the fighting game community. It's a big deal, obviously.
If I were to speculate, and I did speculate this earlier, and I know a lot of the guys who run it, so I'm not going to confirm or deny whether or not this is the thing that happened, but body count fighting is kind of funded and backed by Machinima.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And when there's like that little sniff of something where there could be money in it, then that's when major developers or the people who like own the rights to the game would step in and say, hey, we saw a big ad on a Jumbotron at Evo that you guys are running some event with Dragon Ball about that.
I think it's a lot more complicated than what we're making it out now. But I can
totally
understand.
It's a man in a suit handing someone. It's a man in a suit handing someone a paper, being like, "Hey, about all this,
about other stuff that we just don't know about." Because I've heard stories of things like that happen. Not just with like, again, we're using Bandai Namco as an example, but obviously Capcom. I've heard with Nintendo, obviously in the past, for various different reasons. It usually has to do with other rights things that just don't get out to the public most of the time.
Yeah, it's like a rights lawyer's issue. Again, it's a man in a suit with like who has his reasons, and then like if you were to explain to me on paper what it was, and I were to track, I go, yeah, okay, I guess I get this.
Honestly, I got a better rendition of this. I feel like with Bandai Namco's case, it was a bunch of ninjas from the Hidden Leaf Village that just showed up. It was like, okay, listen, we're shutting this down. We're pressing everybody. And they just like, they'll do like the jutsu. It just like disappear out of the substitution jutsus. It'll be a bunch of little like, little controllers or arcade sticks.
They literally came in and said, I don't know about that one, chief.
Yeah, right? Like, it's just funny to me. I just think, because stuff like that's serious, it just kind of goofs off. That's why I call Nintendo, whenever they go in with, like, their security or stuff, I call them the Bowser Brigade. Like, it's just a bunch of dudes in suits with Bowser pins on them that just, like, escort Nintendo executive stuff. But either way.
I like that thought.
We're getting off track and stuff, but this will be a good spot to kind of cut this episode off here because you're going to do the extra EX mode with me. We're going to talk a little bit more about the fighting game community. We're going to talk about fighting game stuff, which is pretty cool. But for the moment, where can everybody find you right now online?
You can find me at Super Joe Munday on Twitter or at Reddit SF, which is our Street Fighter account on Twitter, or you can just hop on our Street Fighter, the front page, hit that up. User Joe_Munday, like the day, but with a U instead.
Nice. Now, RSF Radio is going on every week, right? That you're posting up new episodes?
Yeah, it releases typically every Thursday, either Thursday morning or Thursday night, depending on my recording schedule. There's also the weekly online local, which I run the one on Monday, and then dude Kamikaze Warrior runs it on Friday nights for the West Coast. As it stands, we run also, by the way, late introduction to the show, we also run the largest online Street Fighter tournament. I don't know if it's the largest online fighting game tournament. It actually might be that.
Ooh, that'd be interesting to know.
I haven't looked cross game, but I've been running it for years now and have had really good turnout every week. So the East Coast one is on Mondays, starting at 8.
That's pretty dope. That sounds pretty cool. But yeah, there'll be links in the description box below, so you guys can go directly to all that stuff that Joe had mentioned. You guys could check it out and stuff. But me and you are going to talk a little bit more on EX mode in just a sec. But guys, let me know what's up in the comments down below. If you guys have been enjoying this episode or any of the episodes of Definitive Discussion Rebooted, tell me in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, of course, and as well, also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Spread word about it. Tell your friends, tell your boys, tell your girls, tell everybody else out there that there's more new episodes, more great content that's coming up onto this YouTube channel very, very soon. So we'll be back in probably just a bit. Again, if you guys want to see the EX mode, if you guys want to listen to it, you guys got to join up on Patreon. You got to support my Patreon page. Pledge at the $1, and you get all that exclusive content. You're going to get a whole extra podcast on top of this one. So if you like FGC stuff, you guys better be on top of this. I'm just saying, okay? And we're giving you this content. Am I right, Joe? We're giving them this content. That's amazing.
There's actually a conversation to be had about content made on Patreon, specifically within the FGCs. I don't know. I'm ready to spend this. I'm ready to spend this EX meter. I ain't greedy with my meter. I spend it liberally.
Oh, yes. This is going to be interesting. But yeah, you guys are going to want to check out this extra episode. So again, there'll be a link in the description box below to it once it's live. Again, if this goes up first before the EX mode, it'll obviously be updated once they're both live. So anyway, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.